Right on. Somebody call for an exterminator. That's what I thought. That's right. Ready to roll out. Battle cruiser operational.
So hello and welcome to this very special episode of the Undermind, the 45th in order, but that's not why it is special. My exclusive guest today is kovarex from Factorio, and it is a lesser known fact that he is also the creator, or not the creator, but one of the founder of the BWAPI project. So a very warm welcome. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you?
And I prepared a bunch of topics, but we were chatting a little bit before this cast, and unfortunately I will ask you a little bit of the same questions. So let's start with your history with StarCraft and your history with gaming, because that is very interesting. You mentioned that you had a lot of LAN parties and
Yes.
PC cafe stuff. So
Mhm.
just go on.
So we started playing really early. We had LAN parties with friends because before even internet was available, and then I started to play a lot on internet, and quite soon I discovered like what I don't know how many hours I actually spent on the game. Like I would say thousands for sure. But I kind of learned that my stronger part of my play was the strategy and like the thinking about counter strategies, etc. But what I really didn't like about the game is like how fast you can click, that you can you need to basically be everywhere at the same time. You need to be really you have to have high and efficient APM, etc. You don't really have the time to think more deeply about anything in the game. You need to really think about it beforehand. You need to have prepared strategies. But when you play, you really need to be really fast and efficient. So eventually, when I like discovered my limits, because then I remember playing on ICC Cup. If you remember ICC Cup, I don't know. Maybe it probably still exists, I guess. But I remember fighting, trying to get as high as I can. I remember getting like, I don't know, I was not really that good. I was like C plus, maybe B minus at my best times, and that was it. And I really struggled to get higher. And I basically recognized that just because of these limits, I couldn't get APM higher than, I don't know, 150. It was my absolute like maximum. Like in the whole game, obviously, like the spikes you can have higher, but whatever. So I was thinking what to do with it. Like how can I still enjoy the game? And first I started to make some simple programs. I remember super long time ago that I tried to like read the monitor. Like I made some program that was reading the screen, and I tried to make like some super simple helper tools, like something that would, for example, send my drones on one location but overlords on another location, or some tool that would allow me to automatically like build drones or army everywhere, etc. And it was really hard because StarCraft uses, I don't know if the remastered version uses it, probably not, but the old version used some palette techniques where it changes palette a lot to fake some animations, and when you read just the colors from the screen, it's really not easy to recognize what's going on. So I had to make some non-trivial, so I learned that some specific pixels that when I read, they are different based on what unit is, for example, selected. And I tried to make some hacking tools, but it was really like not that efficient. And some much later, I was started to be interested in the and also I was interested in making maps. Mainly my most famous map is the micro tournament. I don't know if you are aware. It's called Nem Marvin. It was one of my nicks. Like Nem was not enough minerals. It was of our clan, and it's Nem Marvin's micro tournament. You have I don't know. I think it's played at most by 8 players, and they are like randomly grouped in pairs and play together. And who wins, like a tournament. Did you play the map? Do you
Sounds
know?
vaguely familiar, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But
I remember that there were a lot of micro maps, and I was generally also a fan of micro maps. Maybe because I knew it's my generally like weak spot in games, so I tried to like focus on my weakest spot. So I started making micro maps, and most of the micro maps were very like small and not that good. So I tried to make like one master micro map that would have everything. So I had like, I don't know, I remember, I think like there's like 250 levels and different kind of levels, even things like bunker rush levels, etc. And the fact that you can play as a tournament, people played it quite a lot, and sometimes people still play it until this point. So it's like it was uh, one of my favorite things. And then uh, this still wasn't enough. So sometime later I decided to try to make and because of the micro tournament I wanted to make like a map where computer would be better. Like I started because you can actually, even in the original StarCraft, you have something like scripts where you can specify basically the strategy that the computer will use. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. That could be the way I would enjoy the game, actually writing the scripts and making the computer actually strong, because it was laughable how weak the computer was, especially it's like it usually tried like first kind of attack, and then it did almost nothing. And I
by
was
the
like, it's
way, I think
mhm.
the modding community actually predates the Brood War AI community, because I remember the stuff you mentioned, this scripting and unit behavior and people making custom campaigns and even custom versions of the game. Are you familiar with Huncraft or Huncraft?
No.
Yeah, that's no wonder. It is rediscovered recently. It's actually a Hungarian spin-off of StarCraft with a completely remodded, well, not completely, but a remodded campaign. Two or three new units for each race, and yeah, it was like around 2002 or 2003. So it's really interesting, and they decompiled the game a little bit as well. So yeah, the modding actually predates Brood War AI.
Yeah, so I found some page where they actually tried to improve the scripts and were exchanging the scripts. It probably still exists. I don't know. I don't remember where it was, but it became very quickly obvious that without some micromanagement, which I found that you can't control in any way, it won't be any strong, because basically you can't just the micromanagement, the default micromanagement and army control is so weak that you can always find some stupid way to win against it. So it was obvious super fast that if I want to make something meaningful, I really need to a way to control the units specifically, like to make. So then I decided, okay, then okay, and I remember there was like, okay, so this is obvious. Someone had to do it. It needs to be there. Like for StarCraft, super popular game, someone definitely made API already, right? So I started searching, and there was none. I couldn't find anything, so I was super surprised by it. So I had to do it, because if no one did it, so then I have to do it. This is how I generally think. I don't try to do things just to, like when something already exists and is good, there's no reason to to try to make it better. But if it doesn't exist, we have to do it. So, but it was really like interesting thing for me, because I had no idea about I was familiar with programming. This is one of the things I didn't say in the beginning. I am programming since I was 11. So and now I'm 36, so I'm programming how much 25 years already. So I'm kind of familiar with programming, and like I wasn't programming like nonstop all the time, but it's most of the time I was doing something. So I kind of when I wanted to do the StarCraft API, uh, I was familiar with programming, but I had no idea how the compiling works. How can you even like technically do it? How can you like read the like how can you inject something in the code or whatever? So, but I was like, well, let's try to find out. And I first started, so I had to like I found some tools. I remember I was using Oli debug. It's I think something like that. It's called. It's a tool that where you can basically open the application. I used it for StarCraft, and you can you see the assembler, and you can put breakpoints. You can put data breakpoints. You can do different kind of stuff. So the first thing I did was that I started to uh, research what's already known. So I searched forums where people were doing map hacks. It was the first source of information, and I needed to find, because it's like imagine that you have, I don't know how much code it is, but you have like basically almost infinite amount of assembler code. You have no idea what's doing what because there's no variable names, nothing, and you need to start somewhere. It's like, okay, so I want to control StarCraft. Where do I start? What do I do? So I opened these hacking sites and I started looking for some info, and I found some very, very, very basic info about the structure. Like basically, I was able to find, I think, the structure of like where are the units saved in the memory, and some very, very basic things because the map hackers they didn't really need much. They just needed some basic things for the map hacks, but it gave me some general idea where are the things in the memory. I learned how to inject, which is basically pretty simple, but it's like you find a piece of code, and somewhere where you want to put your code, like there's a jump, and you put jump into your program, you do your stuff, and then you jump back to their program. So basically, you like put your piece of code inside the code. So I started to experiment, and then we started. Then we had to map what means what, because like for example I knew that this is the data of the unit, but I knew about like 3 of the variables what they are, and the rest of it was just random data. I had no idea. So we started to like map what the unit data means, and it was actually pretty interesting because it was like detective work. It's like debugging a problem actually in your program, but without even knowing how the program works. So you try to do random things with the unit, you look at the data, you try to change the things and look what happens.
Basically code archaeology. By the way, are you familiar with the OpenBW project?
Open what?
OpenBW. It is a decompiled version of the game.
I actually know. I am not aware. I don't know if it existed at the time. I would guess not.
No. It is. I think a little bit like 5 years old. I don't know.
Yeah. So this is much older. So I remember like so we started like so then I was then looked at it had when I had some first success. Like I think the first success was like reading positions of units and maybe ordering move command to unit or something. I was super excited because suddenly it did something. It was super simple, but I had some first success. So I wanted to do it as an open source project. So I started the open source project to open, how's it called, BWAPI API. And I think Adam joined me super soon. I think it was almost in the beginning, because I remember that we were negotiating the
sorry for the audience. We are talking about Adam Heinerman, who I also had in the cast.
I'm afraid to say the surname because I would misspell it, but yeah, Adam Heinerman. Yeah. And I remember negotiating the code style for the project, like, okay, so we will have brackets this way, but then we will have capitalization your way, etc. It was really funny. And because it was basically my first group project like this, and then we started to like do it together, and suddenly when we had 2 people, it started to go forward much faster. And I remember like in the beginning I was testing it, and I couldn't resist to try it to do some funny stuff. And when it started to be reliable for some basic stuff, I made like I would call it, maybe it's actually kind of a hack tool, but not really hack tool in a way that I would just look at map hack. But I wanted to see like how much it can alter the game. So I made a helper program that I would specify in some XML file, like what kind of units I want to be. I program it basically for one map for Python. And I remember one of the first things I discovered is that when you micromanagement mining, you can get like plus 20%. I think you are well aware when you are active in the AI community, but you can have like plus 20% or maybe even more mining efficiency.
I think it's not that much, but at least the 10 to 15 or something like that. But definitely a visible improvement.
Yeah, I think it was actually like, it depends obviously how much drones you have, but if you have like the trick was that when you have, for example, 9 minerals, then if you have 18 drones or workers, then double the minerals is enough for perfect mining. You don't need anything else. And with this, like if you have 18, for example, 18 workers for 9 minerals, the efficiency increases, I think, really, really big. And especially if you play competitively, even 10% is huge. Obviously, it's when you play for every second or for every unit, it's like 10% is crazy. So I had like I did this, and then I made some. The idea was that okay, so I will play this helper, and I will play some super stupid strategy, but still like win by the brute force power. So I played like mass marine against everything. So for example, I was playing Terran versus Protoss, and I was just playing late game mass marine. It was absolutely crazy. Like I always told them like at the end that it was like experiment of the tool, etc. But in the beginning, they had no idea what's going on. So, for example, like when you see Terran, when you see Terran building Marines and you are Protoss, like it's like you think, okay, so this is some beginner, this is some weird. You expect that either he is a beginner or it's some kind of timing attack or something. And I was building Marines and expanding, and it was not timing attack. I was just smashing them more and more and more, and suddenly like the mechanics of the game were different because I could really spam them in huge numbers, and I could get nukes super fast because the strategy was that I get marines, I get goes that I can lock down things, and I get nukes, and it was so efficient that I could just like nuke the people and like swarm when these marines from all the side, and people didn't know what's going on. Then they opened the replay. There's like 5,000 APM, and they knew that something was wrong. And
Awesome.
I told them, but that was the point when I realized, like, okay, so this clearly shows that the like mechanical playing of the game is like strong enough to that if the mechanical ability can like override the strategy or anything, because there was no strategy, this was like messing marines, then I'm not that much interested in playing because I don't care that much about the mechanical improvements. But so this, and then we started like improving the API even more, and then we started making some preparations for bots, etc.
Where did you find Heinerman, and was there other contributors in this early stage?
I think there was one more. I don't remember it really that much, but I remember that I actually I quit the basically doing it. Then, like at the point when we had it working like good enough that you could do not everything. Like it was not ready for. For example, I don't think that there was the mechanic. Currently, there's this mechanics that you can't see things that are not in fog of war, etc. These mechanics were not there when I left the project, but other than that, they're like the foundations were there. Like you could read whatever you want. You could upgrade. You could, I don't know. You could do all the basic stuff that you needed for the bot to play. And then I realized how much work, because my obviously like the API, I didn't do it to make an API for people. Like it, obviously I wanted people to use it because they would improve the API. But the goal was like, okay, I made API so I can finally make the bot. but then it took so much time that I lost interest. I had some other things in my life. So basically, at this stage, I just I basically stopped contributing to the project, and I started doing different things. And I kind of forgot about it in a way that's like, okay, so this was something I did, and I had no idea that it started to be like. And then after some years, some people contacted me, and I checked the project again, like 2 years later or something, or 3 years later, and I was like, oh, people actually use it. Oh, actually, it's alive, and people use it for several things. And I was actually super surprised that even like I was like, oh, and some university use it to teach AI, etc. It's like I had no idea. So it was my first experience with open source project. So I never, because before, always when I stopped working on something, it was just in my in my drawer, I can say, like in my computer, and nothing happened with it. And it was first time when I realized that, okay, the fact that it's open source, it's really
It's
nice that it can grow on
kind
its
of
own.
like building a workshop just to fine tune your car. So
Yeah.
you really went above and beyond. And did you meet Chertitsky
Yeah,
later?
yeah,
You mentioned that before. I'm asking that for
but I
the
met
audience.
him way later. I basically just to say one of the things, like basically, so my way of talking about the map and about the BWAPI API, because at that point I realized, okay, so I made quite popular StarCraft map. I spent a lot of time on the map, and then I made some BWAPI API, which also not that I made it only myself, but I started a project, let's say. And I was like, okay, so I made two projects, but I had, there's nothing for me in it. And I still had not, I really didn't have much money. I was kind of struggling. It was the part of my life where I wasn't doing that well, I would say. And I was thinking, obviously I can do something. So I need to think about how to do stuff to actually also make money out of it, uh, because making open source free project is nice, but I want something for myself. And this is where I realized that I need to do something commercial. This was an important like lesson for me. I think if
With a
for example, if
little
Brood War wasn't successful, if the API wasn't successful and the map wasn't successful, maybe I wouldn't be thinking about that much. It actually needs to make my projects commercial, because
with
I wouldn't think that it
some
could happen.
with
Hmm.
some tongue-in-cheek response, let me say that I'm intimately familiar of profitability and Brood War's relationship. But let's not dwell on that. I absolutely can understand your peace of mind at the time. And was this around like 2012 or so? Because I read somewhere that that's around the time when you started working on Factorio.
Yeah, I started basically, I think, more than 8 years ago. So it probably 2012, 2012. Yes. So I don't know if you want to start talking about Factorio, then
I do
we can.
have some StarCraft related questions. First of all,
Hmm.
which race you played? I think that everyone wants to know that.
Well, my favorite is Zerg.
Yeah,
It's
me too. it's, that's the best.
it's it's the most, like, what I like about Zerg is that you have I feel that you have the most most, I would say it, you have the biggest area of decisions, because basically, for example, when you're playing Protoss, it's in a way it's simple. You just build probes and you build army, and obviously you need to choose the timing and expansions and the army, etc. But in the very basic core mechanics, it's the same. Like, you build probes and you build army. But I love about Zerg super much that you can build whatever from your larves, which gives much more freedom to crazy things. Like, you can, like, really, like, build a huge amount of probes and get the economy up super fast, or you can just make full army full all in with whatever. Like, the possibilities, I feel they are much like, and therefore the strategy related strategies, I feel that they are much more interesting and much more crazy. This is why I love Zerg.
I
And
think
obviously also because Zerglings like are just, I love Zerglings. They're like great. And they are everywhere and coming from all the sides. It feels really good.
actually I
Mhm.
named my first bot Jumpy Doggo bot because the Zerglings are just cute little jumpy doggos who want to hug you. So that is a thing that you know now. So what I wanted to ask is, did you write a bot yourself for the for SSCIT or just for yourself before that?
No, I didn't write any bot basically. I didn't write any bot that would be completely self-sufficient. I was making these helper programs that were like half, like they, for example, did macro and I did macro myself or something, but I never wrote self-sufficient bot yet. I was doing some experiments like few years ago. I would say like 3-4 years ago, but I never like finished with it because I just didn't allocate enough of time and I had other priorities. But especially like basically my idea with the bot was that I'm aware that using some kind of machine learning or something like that is almost needed to make like bot that's really good. But my idea was, okay, let's try to make first like mechanical bot in a way that we will just program some strategies and try to program the behavior and see how far can we get. So we kind of have some idea of what can we expect from the machine learning to compare it if actually it can be better or worse compared to like the mechanical solution, if you know what I mean. So that was the general plan, but we never even made mechanical solution.
You mentioned that you didn't really follow this scene closely in recent years. I think the general consensus is right now is machine learning definitely helps, but it is not the end all be all. And actually, many high-ranking bots are not using learning at all, or not using what you would call machine learning. So. And also, I will mention some events that might be surprising for you. We had 2 corporate teams participating in SSCIT so far. One was a Facebook team and one was from Samsung. Actually, the Samsung team's bot was very well funded, and they consulted with Korean pro players as well. Were you aware of that?
No, not at all.
So yeah, this is.
So how did it go, and when did it happen?
I think 2 years ago, where say the Samsung bot was entered, but I'm not sure. And there was a bot called Cherry Pie, which was maybe 1 year before. I don't know, but we have one of the developers in the chat, and maybe he can provide us with timeline. But relatively recently, I would say.
And how does it go? How did it go?
They were a top ranking, but I think Seda maybe won. Cherry Pie didn't, that I know. But top ranking top bot. Cherry. Oh, sorry. Purple Wave is correcting me. Cherry Pie won SSCIT 2017-18, and Seda won AIED 2018. I'm sorry. I'm so bad with this result. So yeah, the point is that they did very good. They are still very high-ranking bots. And you mentioned that you didn't know about the Schnee project as well, which is my project. So I won't tout on my own horn too much. But yeah, it is a human versus AI platform, and it is a little bit more recognized now.
I will definitely try it.
Oh, please do. And
so
yeah,
so
go on,
can
please.
you I'm kind of curious if now when I have you here, like what is the like general development of the, let's say, strength of the robot? Like if you is there some kind of, can you rate them, for example, like if you put them on ladder with humans, what kind of rank would they get or something like that?
There is an Elo rating, and this is a self-contained system because there is the SSCIT ranking, which is between bots, and there is the Schnee rating, which is an Elo score, which is between humans and bots. The general consensus seems to be that the bots are around a C rank, C, or maybe the top one is lower B rank, but yeah, that's about it.
So around my level, so I could have fun with them.
I hope so, and definitely one of the goals of this project that first of all training, second having casual fun with bots, and if you're a pro, you can practice against a consistent opponent as well. I will check the scores just a second, but the 1500 is the base ELO and around 1680 or something is the highest bot last I checked.
No, and the question is like, did it like, how did it change in the past few years? Like, is there a progress? Do you feel that there's a progress change in the past? Oh, and also what I'm kind of interested in is it obviously depends on how much computing power you give these robots. Like when you have a competition, you need to run it on some computer. And what are the limitations?
Actually, it is my impression that the top ranking bots sometimes get into performance problems. StarCraft being a game from 1998 isn't optimized. It's not using GPU at all. So basically, you have the CPU to work with. So you actually need to optimize your bot. And there are the quirks of the Brood War engine, like not being able to handle more than I think 40k APM. So there are those, and these limitations are hit by certain bots. And Purple Wave is correcting me in the chat, which I'm very grateful for because he is a little bit more up to date on that. But GPU usage is allowed for bots. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but Brood War itself isn't terrible.
But the question is, okay, I'm aware, I can understand that the GPU usage is allowed, but when I'm asking is like, I can imagine how to say it, like I'm actually interested what can the bots do if they have whatever computing power they have. I'm not that much interested like what can the bots do with some limited, like very limited amount of computing power. And the point is that if you made a bot and it needed, I don't know, some kind of 20 servers GPU power for computation to run, and it would just externally had to run this to be able to compute what it had to do, then how would you solve it? Like, would you not just allow it to compete, or how would you solve it?
That is a good question. Actually, on SSEIT there is a set hardware that you have, and you have to optimize for that. On Snail it's a little bit different because the bots run on the user's computer. So as you don't really, if you write a bot for Snail, you have to optimize for the average computer.
Yes.
So that's my answer. I don't know if that's
but that's still but it's still like, the point is like what what the real, I don't know, maybe the motivation is like there are different motivations, but for me motivation is to see something great, basically. Like, this is why I'm interested now. I would like to be interested in AI generally. Like, I don't care how much people can like do with some limited hardware. I care, like, obviously the hardware is always limited, but if some bot can do some really great stuff, like incredible stuff, but it needs some big server to run, then I prefer to just try to allow it to use it so we can see incredible stuff, rather than saying, okay, whatever, you bad luck, you just can't compete here. You know what I mean?
The best example for that is AlphaStar, which is an SC2 bot, and it basically had all the money and hardware in the world, and it reached Grandmaster rank. We didn't really have anything like that in Brood War.
Okay.
And it is.
But I think they didn't need that much hardware to actually run it. Like, they needed a lot of hardware to learn to make the evolution learning and to learn it. But to run it, I think it was almost on a normal computer, just 2 or 3 computers or something like that, right? It wasn't crazy.
I believe so. So it wasn't. Like you said, training was costly and used a lot of hardware. Running it probably didn't. I don't actually know what hardware AlphaStar used. But regarding Brood War bots, it is my impression that usually the limitations are not hardware based. It's just it is really freaking hard to make a good bot, and
Yeah.
it is just time and resources. And I just posted a video, and I will post it on the chat as
Okay.
well. Arthos is played against a few bots earlier this year in April. Spoiler alert, he won all the games, but McRave did give him a run for his money. It was a 36-minute game, and in the first 15 minutes it was really close. Then Arthos is gradually outplayed the bot. But then again, he's an A/S rank player, depending on the time of the year. Actually, there was two other show matches. One was Cadenzi, if you know her. She is also sometimes S rank player. I think she is currently at A rank, but I really don't know. It was 3-2 for in her favor versus Locutus, one of the best bots. And recently, Master Ray, who is an A rank Protoss, played best of 5 against Stardust, which is from the same author as Locutus, and he actually lost 2-3. So it is the bots are definitely getting better. Nowhere
I mean,
near
if
pro level.
if they are still allowed to optimize the mining, then there is like this is a big advantage. Like they don't need to be as good as humans basically, because if they organize the mining and just get plus 10% or plus 15 or something, then there's like big, how's it called?
Big force multiplier.
Yes. So you don't need to be as for example with this, I don't really know how to approach it, because to be honest, like if once they would start play with humans and we would want to see how strong they actually are, it's not really interesting to see, okay, they mine faster, so whatever. This is not the interesting part again. So maybe at some time we would just not allow the mine optimization or something to see how can I actually play. Or I because I obviously I watched the StarCraft 2 was it documentary or something about the StarCraft AI, StarCraft 2 AI, and basically they were limiting more and more the board, like how much APM it can have, how much precisely it can click, how quickly can react, etc. Because again, the interesting part is to make bots that can get making good decision, good micro, etc., and not just some machine that quickly and precisely clicks. So the question is like if it's bot against bots, it doesn't really matter because all of them can do it. But if it's bot against human, question is whether the limitation shouldn't be there.
We had this discussion many times. It is my stance that we should start putting limitations in place when the best bots reliably beat the best players, which is very far away. We are nowhere that.
Okay. Because then it's also more fun to play with. Like if I have to outsmart the board to win, it's more fun than if I just know that he is basically cheating money.
Yeah, and the bots are obviously not allowed to cheat. They
Yeah, I know that not cheating, but I'm talking about the plus 10% mining.
Oh yeah,
it's almost like cheating basically because it's trivial, and this is one of the first thing I programmed in the API when I was playing with it. So trivial, and it's
many authors start with that actually and rediscover this.
Yeah, and you can't do it as a human when you play. I mean, maybe I don't know actually if pros try to optimize it a little bit, but I think like whenever it's not super early game, you can't do anything about the mining. Okay, anyway, so now your next question or something. What do you want?
Okay, I have one last question. It's a little bit of a sensitive one, and just feel free to not answer it. First of all, did you have any official response from Blizzard? And because you mentioned that this is kind of sort of a hack of the game, and did someone said that you shouldn't do this?
No, Blizzard never said anything.
That's actually.
But StarCraft was kind of old already at the time, so I don't think that they really cared that much. And generally, like Blizzard is not. I don't want to get too controversial, but I would say that Blizzard is not the company it was, because I'm also. I played World of Warcraft Classic, which is like a year ago when it came out, and now I'm not playing anymore. I played like 3 months, and now I'm just following the Reddit and following what's going on, and it feels that Blizzard is really not the company that it was. Like it's half. It's owned also by Tencent, basically indirectly, at least like partially, and they are much more business company, the game company, trying to like they are not really thinking long term. They are trying to optimize the income in the short term, I would say, and this means that they don't really care about stuff when there's not really big money in it for them. This is how I feel about the company these days. So, and I mean, this is how it's now, and I think like some of it was already there a few years back. So this would mean that they don't really care about if someone is doing something with original StarCraft, etc. And especially when we didn't, it's kind of a hack, but we also didn't. We
didn't
didn't.
actually use it to hack anything, yeah.
We didn't. Yeah, I just played few games on Battle, and that was it. And then uh, since that we tried to make sure that it's not that easy for anyone who doesn't know how to program good enough to use it without being discovered. And also, like, we didn't provide any, like, you had to own the StarCraft to use it. And again, it's like super old game for them. StarCraft 2 was already there when it started to be popular. So I don't think they really cared. That's my impression. But they didn't never contact me or anything. I think the site probably wouldn't be there if they didn't like it. The project wouldn't be existing if they didn't like it, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Or it would have to be on the dark web or something.
yeah, illegally slinging bots on the
Yeah.
dark web. Anyway, this is all that I had about StarCraft. I will of course just read the audience questions in the chat if there anything
Yeah.
pops up. But my other question is, what other games have influenced you in your career and ultimately Factorio? And I'm gonna guess one, and please say if I'm right. I'm gonna say that Fallout 1 and 2 had an influence on it.
Obviously, it's one of my favorite games, Fallout 1 and 2.
I know it. I
It's
fucking know it.
classic. It's a great game. Yeah, it's like I remember I never played Fallout 3, but then I played Fallout 4 a few years ago, and I was like, it's not Fallout game. It's completely different game. I was so
Absolutely the same feeling. It's
yeah.
what the hell is
I
this?
because basically it's the same it's happening with other games as well. But basically, Fallout 1 and 2 had many things that were important for the game, and they either didn't understand it, or they kind of decided that to make the game more mainstream, they need to make it different. I don't know actually what is true, but that probably doesn't really matter at this point. But I guess that like money wise, it's obvious that Fallout 4 and I don't know what is the actual like business result of Fallout 4, and it's quite possible that it's much doing much better than Fallout 1 and 2. But also like it's hard to compare these times and the old games times and these the current times. But yeah, it's like Fallout. Basically, Fallout 1 and 2 is one of the games where that will actually, like, because I have some idea about the game in my head for almost 2 years now that I'm thinking a lot about, and Fallout, some parts from Fallout are a big inspiration actually, because
Yeah, I just had this hunch, and obviously the art style very much is reminiscent of Fallout. The
yeah.
first two games. That can be denied.
But I think the art style generally, like when you think about it, it's how the art style is how to specify it. It's implication of the technique how you make it, because and the same with StarCraft. For example, StarCraft is 2D graphics. They used, at least for something, they used 3D models to actually render it. Like, for example, you have the turret that's rotating, and it's all 2D sprites, but it was obviously rendered from a 3D model when they were producing it. And the same we do with Factorio. So and it kind of, this kind of technique, it has some implications that make it, like, obviously there are some other things that affect the art style, but this actually affects it a lot, this technique. So Fallout did the same, I think. It also looks like basically some in-house render of 3D objects. And Baldur's Gate, which is basically,
That was my next guess, actually.
I'm saying it everywhere, every time when like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 is the best RPG that was
Absolutely.
ever made.
Absolutely.
And it was
I streamed it recently.
it was like,
And
no one made a better RPG ever. And this is basically the main reason why I played some new games, just to not be like like this guy that never plays new games and he just likes the old games. I played the Fallout 4, I played Witcher 3, and recently I played Horizon Zero Dawn, which is actually best. But and I play Kingdom Come also, but Horizon Zero Dawn is the best out of these by a far margin.
okay,
It's still
one other before you say it, but did you play Heroes of Might and Magic 3? You must have.
obviously
Okay,
it's
I know that too. I think
it's-
we had to have to be around the same age, and maybe
Yes.
it's the same
And it was-
inspirations, but
especially I'm kind of surprised because Heroes of Might and Magic is special because it was very popular in, I think, Czech and Slovakian Republic, and also maybe in Hungarian.
it's
And
a whole Eastern Bloc, and I think like people in Russia still play it competitively. It is very much an Eastern Bloc game. I can't explain it, but yeah, there is something somewhere Anatoly
yes.
in a
It
blockhouse
was-
bedroom.
It
who is
was
still playing
almost
it.
like it was not popular in the USA. I think not that much, for sure. But in Czech Republic, everyone my age knows it. Like I remember, like when we went to school, we for example did something, or we just after school we went home and we played Hot Seat so many times. It was like it was a really popular game. And it's another game that was done really, like, many things were done really great in this game. And what I wanted to say about, I want to just close the Fallout 1 and 2 thing, is that I'm trying to play new games. One of the reasons is that I can say that Baldur's Gate was, I'm basically searching for something that would be better, or that would be at least comparable or something. And sometimes I find decent games, but still I don't get it why people can't like make some, like
I
whenever-
feel the same way. It's like maybe it's just compounded by the nostalgia factor, but that's what I thought. But I replayed it.
It's not just nostalgia. Maybe, I don't know. I played Baldur's Gate recently when they made the new expansion. The beam, how are they called, beam blocks?
Yeah,
They made a
enhanced
new,
edition.
yeah, which was hated a lot because of some controversy, which was, this is almost political, but not really. It was really funny because I was reading critics of the game, of the expansion. They made the between Baldur's Gate and 1 and 2, they made this expansion, and
Siege
people
of
hated it a lot
Dragonspear, yeah.
because they were saying this is some social justice propaganda, etc. And it was like, oh no, it's just another propaganda. But then I actually played it, and it was really funny because all the hatred, all the like, was because there was like, out of these hundreds of conversations, everything, there was one character that said one sentence, and the one sentence was, "I used to be a woman," and that was it. It was all the stuff, and everyone was, and I didn't even like encounter this sentence because I don't know, for some reason I just didn't notice this sentence. I was like, what's going on? I never found all this controversial stuff here. I actually enjoyed it. So it's really funny how this controversial topic of
Yeah,
like,
it is my
to-
impression that
like it's like the people are crazy on both sides. This is the crazy thing. Like the people that want to have everything,
it is my impression that the game was just not good. It was not the Baldur's Gate. It actually all the enhanced edition content was a very 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 subpar, and then the creators jumped on this political bandwagon and said, "Oh, you hate our game because of some issue."
Yeah,
No, we don't like your game because it's not a good game.
yeah. I mean,
That's my 2 cents on this.
maybe I had like my expectations were really low because I was basically playing Baldur's Gate with some big mod pack, so I just included this as well, and I expected it to be really bad. And in the end, it wasn't that bad. That's my. But generally, okay. But generally, the problem is that when I play games, it happens to me all the time that I just play the game and I think this has such a great potential. Why do, and the same with movies always, like why do they fuck it up? Like why can't they do it properly? Why can't they like focus on the interesting parts in this game and just cut out the stupid parts? And this would be a great game, but it happens so much that they just don't do it. I don't understand it. I'm baffled by it. I don't know what's going on. But in all these games like Witcher 3, for example, it could be a great game, but in the end, it's just I follow quest givers. I just go from quest giver to quest giver, and I feel like I'm just on rails almost. Obviously, I can roam the world or whatever, but when I do things that matters, it just feels super like I watch a scene, I watch a like movie basically, and then I go and he told me go to A. I go to A. I watch some 2 minutes of movie. I go to C, etc. It's like it just doesn't feel like a game, and it's happening more and more with the new games. So I'm super like excited when I find some, and this is why actually I got into games. This is one of the reasons. Like when you don't like something and when you feel that people are doing shitty job, then you either just complain the rest of your life and be this shitty guy who complains, or just put your money where your mouth is and you try to do something about it. This is one of the reasons why I actually wanted to do Factorio, because I felt that there's, for example, with Factorio, the motivation was that I play Minecraft, and there were some super interesting mods for Minecraft. There still are a lot of interesting mods like this. I think one of the main reasons why Minecraft is so popular is that it was done in Java, so it was easy to hack and mod, and there are so many interesting mods. And I played the mod Industrial Craft and some other, and it was super interesting. I had this feeling like this has a huge potential. This is really fun, but why didn't they focus on the potential and just
Sorry to interrupt you, but Adam Heinerman just joined us. So
hello, Adam.
Hey, I just woke up. Sorry.
Hello, Adam.
So
what is the time in you are in US, I guess.
I'm in PST. It's 1 p.m.
Okay, 1 p.m. It's good time to woke up. I woke up 1 p.m. today as well, so I have.
So we have the OG Brood War API gang here. So welcome.
Actually, I think that we never talked with Adam personally, like on the microphone, right?
Oh my god,
Nope.
reunion party.
So hello. So now you can hear my broken English. By the way, I'm sorry for my accent. I really hate to hear my English accent, but so I really try to avoid talking publicly in English because my accent is horrible. But this is
really don't worry about it. And I think I
Yeah.
obviously have an accent too.
So just saying.
So back to the gaming and impressions. I really love that you had the same impression, same impressed by the same games and had the same experiences, because I swear I could tell the imprint of those games on Factorio. And
Yeah, definitely Factorio.
And I was right. And I was
basically Factorio is a Frankenstein of my favorite games, which is I would say first of all like the industrial mods of Minecraft. Then there is this some part of StarCraft. Then there is Transport Tycoon, obviously.
Oh
and,
yeah, that fucking damn it, Transport Tycoon. Also a big favorite of mine.
And Civilization, basically this
check
from the what I mean, the game Civilization. And this was my favorite part about Civilization was the technology progress and how you how the gameplay moves from like the way you play changes as you progress. And these 4 games are basically the main. Like I took these 4 games and just smashed them together and made something out of it. And I was not sure if it would be something fun or it wouldn't be too much. But I just wanted to put all this together because each of these games is really great in what they do. But I feel like, for example, in Transport Tycoon, I really miss that I don't have to defend from anything. I don't know. It's really weird, but playing StarCraft all the time, this is what I felt. And in Civilization, for example, it was like it's nice, but it's turn-based and it's simplified in some aspects. And in StarCraft, it's again like you have to do everything manually. So I wanted to smash it all together, and I'm actually surprised that it kind of works. And
Not just kind of, I think it's we can safely say that it is a very successful game at this point, right?
I would say so. Yeah, it's like how many did we sell? Like 2.3 million or something copies, which is
Wow.
like it's still like indie category, I would say, but it's pretty good. It's
I
like
think
obviously
that's quite a good income,
It's-
and
it's,
I hope it made you
like
a
in the
lot
like
a
in the,
good
in the
living.
beginning, obviously, like the thing with Factorio is that in the beginning it was supposed to be like just a hobby project, like something I do for fun, and then I started to do it in a way that okay, we do it with two friends, and it will be some super niche game for people that want this exact thing. And we were calculated that we need to sell like 10,000 copies to get even. But
So
obviously,
I would say that the kovarex enrichment process has been very successful, right?
but now the process was that we always had like how many copies do we need to sell and how much work it will be. But then we always then we started to grow the game, and then we started to grow how much like we need to earn, etc. Because then like when we were like 50% done, then the rest of the 50%, like rest of the plan, expanded 3 times basically. It was expanding, the rest of the work was expanding faster than we were moving forward for several years. So there was never like point where there were some critical points, but it took a long
Feature
time
creep
until
is
it's actually like the work that's left started to get smaller. This was really like basically for 8 years I was just finishing the to-do list from the beginning. It was really weird.
feature creep is
So
very real.
yeah, and so basically I had this idea for this game. We started working on it, and with a friend. It was really kind of hard time because I quit my job because I wanted to do this, not the programming job I was doing. I was working in a company that was selling cars in Czech Republic, just some kind of this company software that's organizing the, I don't know how to say it, like this company software for everything. We were doing this, and I was doing it for 4 years, and it wasn't that much enjoyable. It was like basically work. So I wanted to do games all my life. So suddenly when I had this chance, I knew that okay, so I don't have family yet. My girlfriend that I had just broke up with me, so I had no responsibilities, no one to care for, all the free time, and some money saved. So I was like, okay, if there is some time where I could actually try something and go, like full, like how to say, like you basically
Full
do
steam
one,
ahead.
full steam or something, and do like one thing and try it, then this is the time. I was like, okay, if because for example now if I tried it now and I have family and responsibilities, 3 kids, then I can't really risk that much because you just need to, how's it, like bring the food to the table. This is how we say it. So you can't just and at the time we moved together, like with my friend, we moved together to one apartment to save as much as we could, and we were living super cheap, so we can like survive as long as possible using our saved money. And this allowed us to work like 16 hours a day basically, or I don't know, maybe 14 hours a day, let's say, every
you
day,
were
7 days a week, just to have something that works and it can be sold before our money runs out. So it was really, really stressful, really, really crazy, because we saw these huge companies and with big budgets and big graphics, and my idea was, okay, so we will have a simple graphics, but this is one of the another things, like what I hated about games. For example, they made StarCraft 1, and in StarCraft 1 you have limitation of 200 units. Basically, I know that the limitation is mainly for balance purposes, but let's say that one of the purposes why it was done this way was, at that time, was to make it possible to handle all the battles, etc., on a computer. And I was hoping, okay, when they make StarCraft 2, they will make it possible to make much more units at the same time, right? So you can have much bigger battles and it could be much more cool. But no, instead of like increasing the amount of units, they just increase the detail of one unit, and it's the same basically. And this is happening with all the games. I don't really get it. Like I want a lot of things happening in my game, because the hardware is now like immensely stronger, but that's not what's going on. Like they are just making more and more detailed characters and facial, how's it called, facial animations, etc. I don't care that much about it. I just want a lot of stuff happening in the game. So this is why we deliberately chose the 2D graphics and made it super simple. So the idea was, maybe there are enough of people that think the same. That they don't really care about the graphics that much. They just want a lot of things going on in the game. So this is why I felt like not really that inferior compared to the big companies, because this was my way of thinking.
I think it is amazing what you have accomplished without any embellishment. It's I really like the design philosophy
without
behind. Without embellishment, like this is my.
What is it? What is it? Embellishment? What does it mean?
Like not making nice, but it is my honest opinion. I'm not just.
But what is embellishment? I don't know what the word is.
Embellishment means that like making it prettier than it really is. It's like pretty words and flowery phrases and everything. So
yeah, this is one of our like core. I would say it's core concept of my life, to do no bullshit and not try to make things look better than they are. And it's a core concept like of the company as well, of the way we do stuff. And this is the reason why we have the second best rated game on the Steam. It's not I don't think that like objectively it's the best. Like if you took a random 1,000 gamers and let play our game, and let them play random games, our game wouldn't be that high for sure, because a lot of people just wouldn't enjoy it. But the reason why we are so high is that we are very, very straight when we are presenting the game. So it doesn't really happen that people that wouldn't like it still buy it. And it's really important. Like we don't have any like pre-made cinematics, etc. When you see the presentation of the game in the trailer, you actually see how the game looks. So if you don't like this, you know it before you buy the game, so you can't give negative review because you don't like the style or this kind of game.
What you see is what you get. And also, it is my impression that you are a very direct person as well. Like
yes,
it is good. I actually prefer that to dancing around.
So yeah, so basically, with the graphics, and so this is why all of our trailers were showing exactly what's the game. We are trying to make really, and this is one of the things we learned also, that it's important to never over promise. This is like if you have the same product, absolutely the same product, but in one scenario you promise a little bit more, and in other scenario promise a little bit less, people would be much happier if you promised a little bit less, even if you in the end they play exactly the same product, because we know very well that happiness is reality minus expectations. So you really need to put the expectations down as much as possible, and then it works. So I mean, not as much as possible, because still need to kind of, for example, in the game industry, you need to market the game, you need to show that it's good, but you still need to have like, you can't overdo it. Like I don't actually, for example, I didn't play Cyberpunk yet, but a lot of people don't like it because their expectations are sky high, And if they
Yeah, I spent the better part of the last week playing Cyberpunk, and it's my impression is that it should have they should have waited a little bit with it because it needed polish. It's an awesome game, but it's just not done.
yeah, I understand it.
By the way,
Remember No Man's Sky?
of course.
Yes, I know the story. I saw the YouTube video about the story. I never played it, but the story is really inspiring, I would say.
I wanted to
The-
get
you
a
know, like how
question
the-
in. Sorry for interrupting, but you did ask me for it. So before I forget, what is the exact part from StarCraft would you say that inspired or not inspired you? What is the exact part from StarCraft that made it into Factorio as a concept or mechanic or anything?
Well, basically the concept of fight, because like the fight, it's non-central part of the game for sure. It's just something, how to say it, like the designer idea of how the whole fight mechanics work in Factorio is that it's just another thing you need to take into consideration. It's like another aspect of the game. So it's like if you play on the standard settings, it's basically trivial to survive and to kill the biters. Like it's really hard to actually lose to it. It's almost, I don't know, like it, maybe I'm just used to the game. It feels almost impossible to lose on the default settings, but you still need to take it into consideration when doing the strategical decisions. It's adding some depth because, for example, you need to conquer new territories to mine other stuff, and it also depends. It obviously depends how efficiently you can do it. Like if you have better weapons, you can do it more efficiently. If you, for example, if you have some kind of defensive perimeter and it takes you some because Factory basically the main resource in the game is your time. Like how fast can you get to the very late game, or how fast can you get to the mega base, and you basically need to think about how you are spending your time. So just the fact that when you already build a wall with turrets in the late game, it means it's basically safe forever almost. It's fine, but you need to go there and build it, and you need to think about how thick the wall should be and how many times will you have to go back and repair it or something, or if you automate it, or how far do you make the next perimeter when you are extending so you don't have to come back. So it adds some kind of depth to the strategical thinking. But
How to
it's
get
not,
the damned
it's
firearm
not
magazines there?
what?
How to get the damned firearm magazines there? How to
Yeah, yeah.
supply the turrets? That's. I always built a mega wall and ran out of magazines. Then I learned not better.
You bring them by train, obviously. Because we had some. I just recently we had a LAN party when we played like Death World, which is settings where you have many biters, and mainly you can change the settings like how much they attack based on pollution, like how many biters are sent per absorbed or pollution. If you move it to the left, it means they attack a lot, and you spend more and bigger part of your processing of your production on just bullets until you get to some higher tech. And this is where it obviously starts to be more interesting, because if you already know how to play, because you really need to get those, for example, flamethrowers in time, or you just are not able to survive. So what I'm
And
trying,
that final satisfying moment when you unlock artillery and
Yes.
bomb them into the fucking Stone Age.
yes, it's kind of a late game, yeah. Or you make like 8 Spidertrons and just send them. But the point is that in StarCraft, they're like you also basically on some very fundamental level, you are doing the same kind of thinking. Like I have a base, I have expansion, for example, and I have to think, okay, so do I put, I don't know, another 2 cannons here to be saved from something, or do I invest fully on, I don't know, something that I do some strategy. So you need to kind of balance the threat versus like defensive versus offensive versus investment, let's say, and this kind of aspect, I think it's in the game from StarCraft.
Awesome. And I have a favorite Factorio video. We will discuss it after the cast. And one thing I really wanted. Do you plan to add a turret wagon or something? That
We, oh, you mean like we have artillery turret and it's not
yeah,
artillery
but
wagon is
like
not enough.
no, because in the early game I want to go around with trains and shoot stuff. Okay,
Ah,
that was I was
yeah,
considering
well,
as a mod. So I really love the love and support that you give to the modders, and as you said, mods keep a game alive, and it is uh, really an approach that many gaming companies should take. That you support your audience, you support your modding, and showcase and feature them. That's really well done.
yeah, well, modding is one of the things that basically about modding. I am even before I started Factorio, I had some experience with Baldur's Gate modding, for example. And if you know Baldur's Gate, maybe you might know that the modding scene isn't small. There's a lot of stuff in Baldur's Gate modding,
I have
and
played the entire saga about 20 times over, so
wow, great.
I would
That's
say
crazy.
I do.
Yeah,
And I
and
play with
I actually at some time I even like made my own installer of mods because it became too crazy to, and then some other people made better installers, so I didn't have to do it anymore. But the problem with Baldur's Gate modding was obvious. Like you had to install them in some specific way. A lot of things could get wrong. Very often you didn't know until you played it, and you could play it 50 hours and then figure out that something wrong. It's super annoying, and you had to use the console a lot to fix stuff, etc. And it's basically like painful experience. You really need to be a fan, or you need to have some prepared. You need to play something that's prepared very well that works together. And a similar experience I had in Minecraft. And I mean, it's much. I think the modding there is much better, but generally, for example, I remember that mods had to like communicate on forums or somewhere, like what kind of IDs of blogs will they use for what kind of things, so they don't overlap and they are compatible with each other. And I was thinking this is really really bad. Like if they have to communicate outside the game to coordinate what kind of IDs will they use, uh, that's not the way how it should work. So I remember that like this specific thing was motivation for me to solve this, to I have to say like to overcome the problems that I encountered by trying to mod these two games to make it properly. And the first so I kind of made some kind of, let's say, a basic specification of what the mods should do, and it should be in every game should follow the same set. And it's first of all, you should be able to add or remove mod in the middle of the game always. Like it obviously the mods can be written in a bad way that you can't do it, but generally it should be possible to add or remove mods like in the middle of the game. That's first thing. And the second thing is that mods should be like mod A and B should be able to work like in the same game without them knowing about each other and without having to like communicate and make some, you know what I mean, like to make them compatible basically. So we have the system of IDs and names. So basically every mod can like name their things, and then when the game is being loaded, it assigns, because obviously we can't use string names in the game for IDs of objects because it would be too slow and memory inefficient. We still need to use like integral IDs for everything. But when you start the game, basically the game assigns integral IDs automatically based on the mods you have. And then in the save game, it already has like knows what kind of IDs are assigned, what kind of string IDs, and it's doing the magic. So in the end, we are still playing with integral IDs, but the mods don't have to, deal with that. So, and I think that's actually it actually is the reason why it works so well, because now the only problem that mods can have is they like assign the same string literal to their objects, but it's easily avoidable. Like mod can have some kind of prefix for their objects, or just this is the chance of this happening is much lower, so smaller. So, and then obviously multiplayer, that's another part, like and generally like the storage of mods, that's another part that games don't really do well that often. Like for example, if you want to find mods for Minecraft or Baldur's Gate, there are these fun sites and there are several of them, and it's not easy. And we just made our own official site and integrated it into the game. So for example, when every save kind of knows which mods are active in the save, or when you want to join multiplayer game, you can just click one button, download the missing mods, install them, and just join the game. This is something that's not, I don't know, maybe it changed in the last 8 years in the game like scene generally, but I feel that this is something that wasn't that common at the time when we were doing it, and it also helped a lot. Like so the general idea is that users can use mods without having to be programmers and having to debug some stupid errors. I think this helped us a lot. Like we have like 5,000 mods now or something.
Wow. That is a really impressive number.
Mods, when I go to modsfactorio.com, and I do search
And
like
what is the design? What was the design process behind Factorio? Like how did you come up with like, okay, we should have these resources and this stuff, and I don't know, what is the design process? How do you build up something like Factorio?
the design process is kind of simple, and we made something simple. Like in the beginning, we made the absolute very core of the game. It's like which is obvious. Like you don't have to be designer to find it out, figure it out. Like you mind something, you move it, and you process it. Like it's the most obvious thing. And then so once we got the very basic loop, then we started to play the game, and we didn't have a plan. I think, and to be honest, I think this is the best. Don't have a plan. This is like when you are playing chess or when you are playing StarCraft. Actually, when you are playing StarCraft and you start playing, you shouldn't have a plan. You should just look what your opponent is doing. I mean, you can have a plan, like if you until something I discover something, I can have plan, but then I need to adjust my plan. And this is same with game development. It's absolutely the same. We just, because you can't have a plan because it's too complicated to know what's going to be good, because the games are generally complex, and it's especially when it comes to when you take fun into the equation. Fun is super abstract. Like what is fun? It's hard to tell how to plan fun.
So in the meantime,
the point is you make some very basic prototype which we made, and we started to play the game, and we kind of had fun with some parts of the game, and some parts of the games were super annoying, and some parts of the games were fun but not like developed enough. So we removed the annoying parts and we developed once you start playing, you don't really have to think about it much. It's usually obvious what's fun for you, and then you just extend the fun part, and then you make another version, and then we make version 02, and then we're like, okay, we need research because that's obvious. We need to unlock things, so we had the research, and then we played more, and we were like, this is really annoying to repair the walls again and again and again. So we need some automated ways to repair. So we make, I don't know, repair robots. It just makes sense, and step by step, we just always edit the more like we. Basically, before every release, we played and we discovered what we missed the most and what's most annoying, and then we just edit it. And this is it. I don't feel that there's anything hard. I think games should do it more, because if you, I don't know, if you do Witcher 3, for example, they don't work. They basically, it's different kind of game also, I would say, but they can't work this game this way because they have a big investor. They need to have some plan. They need to have deadlines, and they need to do it in time and then sell it. So they can't. This is my feeling, that they can't improvise that much, and that means that then they can't. They need to plan the fun ahead, which is harder, or they need to just follow the the known path. They know that if you make some basic RPG and you make this, and this, people will generally like it. But you will never make anything really great this way because you need to react to the game as it is. So so this is, I don't know. And usually, like for example, with the balancing, etc., it's kind of very simple. Like if something was too cheap, we just made it 2 times more expensive. Something was too expensive, we made it 2 times cheaper, and that was enough for like the precision of this kind of process was usually enough. And we try to make some of the recipes to avoid some too simplistic solutions. Like for example, I don't know, the electric circuits, they have like how's it, like you have 2 wires from one copper plate, and then you need 3 wires for one circuit. So it's obvious that these numbers don't match so easily. So we need to basically, the more uneven the numbers in the recipes are, the more you are motivated to make like specialized lines for each products. Which we try to
and the big spaghetti base.
Yes, which we try to force, because for example, I don't want to say like I played Satisfactory obviously, and one of the things I didn't like about this game is that they don't do this as we do with the recipes. The recipes are much more streamlined, which means like I know that this iron, for example, belt would go specifically to this production and nowhere else. So you just connect things one to another, and just you just make a.
I
think
wanted to bring that up. Actually, I was a little bit worried that it will be a sensitive topic because it is kind of your competitor, that game. And my impression was I played Satisfactory too. It's not a bad game, but I consider it a little bit subpar to Factorio because one simple reason: if you join a friend's game, you don't know what the fuck is going on. It's you have to spend an hour to explore the base. With Factorio, you join a game, take a look, and kind of figure it out. Like,
well, this was one of the design like rules. We tried. We were like, okay, if the game is already 2D, let's take the most what we can take from it. And the rule was the factory needs to be understandable by just looking at it. Obviously, you can get more info by opening machines. For example, with combinators, you can't do that because it's just we couldn't figure out how to do this. But yeah, you should be able to understand the factory by just looking at it. And many decisions were affected by this. And like many times, like some people or graphic departments, they wanted to make a changes that would be against this rule. But I tried to defend it as much as possible. And I think that it actually like this space of that you can actually like people post picture on Reddit of some factory or some setup, and you just look at it and you understand, okay, so this is a good setup, I understand it. And it has some rules, it has some
I really love the blueprint system that you
and
implemented.
blueprints, especially like what I just you said it's, if Satisfactory is like sensitive or something, it's not sensitive at all. It's like, first of all, when Satisfactory was created, I think we met with the creators. Actually, we went on they were in Prague on some conference or something. So we had a big lunch together and talked about stuff. So they are cool guys, I would say. And my general feeling is that the more kind of big games we attract to this genre, the better for everyone in this genre. I don't think that Satisfactory would kind of steal our customers or anything. It doesn't work like that, at least in the game industry, I would say. Like it's like look at McDonald's and how is it, KFC. When McDonald's makes some store at some corner, and KFC goes to the same place, because if people already go to buy food, they
I guess you're right, and I didn't really consider that the Factorio is a one-time purchase. You you're not a subscriber.
Yeah, exactly. And usually, if people really like this kind of game, they will buy both anyway.
Yep.
And the point is that if, for example, if Satisfactory is, I don't actually know how successful they are, but if they are super successful, or there comes some other game that's like this is even like more successful, it's just great news for us, because it means it will eventually bring people to us as well. Because for example, usually the games that would come like Satisfactory, I would say that it's less complex than Factorio and more like nice, more like graphically nice, or how to say it, like more. And the point is that if people play Satisfactory and think, okay, so I'm finished with this, so and I liked it, where should I go, what should I play? And people, no, we should play Factorio because it's like similar.
Can be a gateway
So
drug, right?
it really brings the people, like it's a synergy. It's nothing else than synergy. So there's no bad feelings at all. And actually in a way it's I would say that when people start to make like games that are inspired by your game, it's a great feeling. It means that you made something worth
I can
being
say that
inspiration.
Factorio is a genre, yeah, on its own. It's like not there were management games before that, and there are one very good example, and I don't know if it was an inspiration, but did you play Dwarf Fortress?
No, I never played it.
It is kind of similar, but not really. But yeah, Factorio is a genre of its own, and no one can take that away.
I got like this game got recommended to me many times, and I'm a little bit afraid to play the game because it looks too complicated for me. But maybe I should definitely play it one day. But I can honestly say that I never played it. So if there are some similarities, that's completely by a chance.
And there is an audience question I've been trying to sneak in. Is how did you build your initial audience for the game, and how did you find testers and get feedback on Factorio in its earlier stages?
That was first of all, I would say this was really hard in the beginning. Obviously, like everything is hard in the beginning. That's like when you are small. Basically, we no one and we were small. The game was looking super basic, and it was kind of already fun, but you had to get through, and you had to like invest the time into playing to understand that it's fun. But otherwise, you would just think, oh, so another some weird looking game, whatever. And so we had we were no ones. We had no like projects behind us. We had a game that looked weird, and no one really knew about it. And we started basically this whole process of where we were getting people. It was compressed kind of in one specific month of our life. That was the most, I would say, the hardest, not hardest, but the most excited month of my life, I would say, or like most hectic life of my life. That's the word. And it was when we started Indiegogo campaign. Basically, we worked for a year or something, and then the money was starting to go away. We started, we didn't have that much time anymore. So we were in a point like, okay, so now we need a reality check. Now we need to decide, is it something that we just enjoy work? Because we enjoyed it a lot. Like we were programming it all day and playing with it, and it was super fun for us. But we are very, very well aware that when you are working on something, you don't really look at it objectively. So we needed a reality check and to know if it's actually just fun for us, or if it's actually something that could be viably used, like to be solved. So in other words, if we can just continue doing it, or we need to get a job and do this as a hobby project. And so we decided that we will do an Indiegogo campaign, which means it's like a Kickstarter, basically, just European version of Kickstarter. I guess I don't have to explain Kickstarter, right?
Not really.
Yeah, and we made like at that point, the goal was I think €17,000, which was not that little for how little we were and how we were unknown. But and we also made a campaign in a way like you can say that either we get at least 17,000 or we get nothing. Because if we got like €5,000, what would like our point was like either we get enough to finish it, at least, or finish it from what at the time what we thought means to finish it, or we just get a job and get out of that hellhole, which it was super fun, but it was a little bit of hellhole as hell, working 14 hours a day or something that you don't even know if it's going to be useful or fun or anything, and your money running out and be stressed every day. It was really hard. So the idea of getting out of it and just getting normal job wasn't that bad actually at the time. It was something that we were looking forward to. We needed some way out of this state. So we made this goal in a way that either we get enough or we get away. If we got like half, if we just got like 5,000 euro or 2,000 euro, what would we do with that? Like we would have some responsibility, but not enough to continue fully. It would be the worst to be in the middle.
How
So we
big?
wanted to.
Sorry to interrupt, but how big was the team back then, and how big is it
We
now?
were just basically we were me and my friend, my friend Thomas. Basically, we were like 50-50, and then also we paid Albert, which is like graphician guy that joined us, and that's it basically. So like 3 people basically.
And now?
And now we are like 20, I think. I mean, we could be much bigger, but that's another story. But what I wanted to say that basically in this time in the Indiegogo campaign, we thought I'm basically answering to the original questions just a little bit, in my in my way of answering questions. That we thought that we will make an Indiegogo campaign, and the site that's hosting the campaign, like let's say the Kickstarter, that we put it there, and people will just explore it there, and they will give us money because it's a game. People love games, so they will help us. But then we put it there, and nothing happened, and just we got like I don't know, like few hundred euros from basically from our friends that were just feeling sorry for us, and that was it. And then nothing was happening for 2 weeks, and we were a little bit surprised by that. And we asked some, I remember, and we found some other games similar to our size, or they had successful campaigns similar to our campaign size, and then emailed them and asked them like, what did you do? How did you manage to succeed? Because we are doing really bad. And they all told us, oh well, we were just accumulating accumulating community for like a year, and then we made a campaign. And we were like, oh, so this is how it works. And we suddenly had only 2 weeks left on our timer, and no people knowing about the game. So what we started to do is that we started to do it at the start of the campaign. We found a lot of forums about games, and we like introduced ourselves, like, oh, we are doing this game, and talked about the game, and try to talk about the game on the forums. And in like half of them we were banned immediately because we were self-promoting our product, which is generally spamming. And on some of them people talked about it a little bit, but not that much. And what I remember, that one of our friends that was helping us, we were doing this kind of trick that there was this topic about Factorio in one of the bigger forums, and always like he waited like half a day, and then he asked a question, and so the topic gets to the top, and then we waited half a day and answered the question, and then we like basically he asked like, can you do this and this in the game? And then we answered, yes, it can do it, blah blah blah. And then he asked, basically he helped us to keep the topics to be on the top, and actually helped us also by giving the good questions so the game looks good.
Well, the end justifies the means in this case.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but so the point is, but still we were not doing really that good. And there's one specific thing that saved us in this moment, and that actually helped us to get people and saved everything. One magical thing, and the magical thing is that we gave up. This is really weird, but it saved us. Basically, when we had like 2 weeks left, we were like, it was obvious that nothing was going to save us. This is not going to work. So we stated everywhere that, okay, we are going to find jobs. This campaign is not going to work, and whoever wants the game just emails us. Because when we were doing the campaign, we had like when you, I think, put like $10 in the campaign, you get the game for it. And and we told every on all the channels, we told that we will give the game for free to anyone who asks for it, because whatever, it will fail anyway. So if you want to just try it out, we don't really, then be our guest. And actually we both found a job in in few days, because we are programmers. It's really easy to find jobs. And we decided that we will just end this gracefully. And when we were applying for the job, we told the people that we have this project that will fail, and 99% it will fail, and the 1% we will not come to the job. And the point was that we would have 2 or 3 weeks of vacation before we actually start working in the job, and the 2 or 3 weeks was the rest of the campaign. And this actually saved us, because suddenly we were giving the game for free. I know how how the world works. When you give something for free, lots of the people that wouldn't care and wouldn't invest $10 in some random campaign suddenly got slightly interested, and we started getting emails, like few of them in the beginning. And we were just giving the game to everyone, and suddenly other people than me and my friend started to talk on the forums about the game, because suddenly they started to play it and they discovered that it's not that bad. Actually, there's some fun in it, and they started showing their small factories and setups, and more and suddenly start to be alive. And every day more and more people started to email us about the game, and suddenly after few days we discovered that from morning to evening we are doing nothing else than just answering emails. And we were like, oh, something's happening here, like what's going on? So at that point we felt that we had hope. So in the last 10 days before the end of the campaign or something, we basically we said that we are changing our mind and we are not giving it for free anymore. And if you actually want it, you need to you need to put money into the campaign again. And that's the only way to get it. But there were enough of people talking about it, so enough of people wanted it. And in the end, we were getting $1,000 or €1,000 per day in the end of the campaign, because suddenly it got traction. It got suddenly people started talking about it. It was obviously small scale, but it worked enough for us, and we got more than 22,000 euro in the end. And we felt like kings of the world, obviously, because €1,000 a day, it felt like infinite money. And
Oh yeah.
and
This is just awesome. I love this story, and love that I got to. I hope you didn't tell this story before.
So basically the answer is that we in the beginning we gave the game for free, and the game was actually fun. That was the way that it worked for us. And generally, obviously, if you have a game and the game is fun, then you want as many people in the beginning. You don't really there's millions of players. If you give 100,000 copies somewhere for free in the beginning, and people actually get it, it's great for you. Just don't be afraid to give the copies for free, because people will just try it, and if it's actually fun, then it's great. Obviously, it's if you are if the game has just just looks great but it's not actually fun, then this won't work. But yeah. So this is the part of the story where we thought that we are good forever with money, which is funny because it was far from truth. Because obviously the campaign ended, we started selling the game, and all the excitement for the campaign and everything, it kind of died out very quickly, in few days. And for the next several months we were selling close to zero, maybe few copies, 2-3 copies a day, or maybe even less. So we weren't solved. We didn't have enough of money for good. But it obviously it was very, very, very different at this point already. Our motivation to work and everything was very different, because even if the game wasn't selling at that point, we knew that some people actually can enjoy it, and some people were posting pictures about it with excitement, talking about how they build their factory, etc. So we knew it's fun. We knew it works for other people and for us, and we knew that even if we are not selling now, it doesn't really matter because it's not just in our head. It actually makes sense. So this reality check was like very, very important for us to have the will to continue actually.
This is an awesome success story. I really thank you for sharing. It's truly inspiring.
For me, it's really very, very strong. I have very strong emotions related to this part of my life. It's really, I have to. I'm trembling actually, and not because I'm speaking with you. I'm trembling because the emotions come back to me, and it was that I was trembling for 3 weeks because there was so much adrenaline. I was like sleeping 2 hours a day for 2 weeks almost because it was so much adrenaline. It was crazy because if you are working on it every day for 14 hours and suddenly you see actually people play it and that they have fun, it's really it's something special.
It really is. You are spot on about that. And
obviously, like if in the future, if we make some like other game or something different, then we can never like repeat the drive we had that, because if I decide to make another game, it's not all or nothing now. It's like I have some, we have some money stability, and we can afford to lose some money basically. So the drive will never be that big as it was at the time, because also it was the first time, etc. But on the other hand, I think if I hope that we learn something on the way, so it should be that there's a little bit less drive for sure, but there's more experience, and there should be people already, and there should be more money to buy more resources from the start. So I think ideally this should like more than even out the the change of this. But this is like my general feeling that the small companies, the small startups, their main advantage is that they have this huge drive and they are super efficient because they are just few people. They are very good usually, and it means, and when we compare it with the big companies, that they spend so huge amount of money and time on user stuff and on being not efficient because they are big, then I wouldn't be afraid to just start new companies and try to make a competition in any big field. I think because it's just the advantage, like the small companies very often doesn't understand how big advantage is to be small. Because if I imagine that I would, this is what I'm getting to the question, that we have 20 people now and we could afford to have more. And I think we should have a little bit more, but not that much. But having, let's say we would have 50 people, suddenly we would have to we would be less efficient. We would have to put more into, we would have some kind of managers, and suddenly it would start to be very different and the drive would be different. So it's really like hard to move from this like stage of 20 people, which is like 20-25 is the biggest you can manage without some structure. And this is where you need to, like a lot of companies, for them it's really hard, and they very often like made mistakes and almost died on this transition from 25 to 50, 100, etc. This is why I'm afraid of it. Just answer your another question.
And the thing is that no one tells you how to proceed at any stage. It's like I don't claim to have the amount of experience that you had. I'm obviously a little bit how do I say it, far you are far more along the road that I'm in, but yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Definitely relate on growing a community, or more in my case, being a part of a growing community and playing some part on it. Let's not oversell myself here, and this is not about me anyway. So yeah, it is. I wish you the best, and I hope that I don't know how done you consider Factorio, but your next game will be as awesome as it is. I know that is a tall order, but yeah.
Well, just to, I can give you some kind of info that is going to be public soon. So anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But we actually plan. Basically, now we have Factorio version 1.1, which is like basically the real finished version, because there were a lot of small things that we and I wanted to finish. And now it's, for me, it's, they are like, when I open the form, it's like there are like 25 or something bugs left to be fixed, which is like usually small things and some nitpicks. And then it means then we get to stable and Factorio is finished, which is super like big thing for me. It's like 8 years of being kind of in depth. I felt in being in depth all the time because we promised it to be finished, and now we actually finish it and it's done. And the question is obviously what we do next. And there's another thing, like I feel that companies that are not humble enough, they have this problem of, they have basically, look at it this way, like find 100 companies that are not that big and they made one hit. Let's say Factory is like hit in the scale of what you do, obviously it is. And let's find out how many of them did make another game that's completely different, not like just some extension or something, and it was like hit again. And it's almost never, basically. It happens very, very, very rarely. Like I think, like for example, the Clay Studio, they made Don't Starve and then Oxygen not included. It's they really know what they are doing, I think, and they are one of the exceptions. But usually,
To be fair, early Blizzard is a good example for that.
yeah, obviously, like this is what I'm saying. Obviously, it's happening, but it's happening kind of rarely. So much more rarely. Like the point is that if you have success with something, well, we generally, as people, like tend to overestimate our like role in the success. Like how much was it skill, how much was it luck, how much was it some other aspects, and so very often it happens that they overestimate their role in the success, and they I don't know, let's say they make $50 million in their hit game, and then they invest 45 in some much more expensive next project, expecting that they just need to succeed because they put even more money in it, and then it's shit, and then it doesn't, no one likes it because it's just not good. And it's happening. I think this thing can happen very easily. Basically, when it gets over your head how great a game creator or whatever you create are. So we try to take this thing and really take it to our heart and make sure that it doesn't happen to us. So our general plan is to first of all, some, let's say, bigger part of our resources should be invested into extending Factorio, which is, we never said it, like I think maybe publicly, but it's kind of obvious almost that we want to make some kind of extension of Factorio, which is a safe bet, basically. Like there are lots of ideas of what we can do, and we just can pick the best ones and improve it generally and just sell some kind of expansion pack or something. That's I think that's the safe way to go. But obviously, like on the other hand, we just can't. No, we can, but we shouldn't just do one thing forever. I don't want to do Factorio 7 and 70 years or something. I want to do something new because there's the fun, like do new things. Because basically, when 8 years ago, Factorio was stepping out of my comfort zone, basically. A lot.
Well, to be
And
fair, you are on a podcast that is about a 22-year-old game, so then
yeah, no,
that you can't know. It is very possible that you will do this 10 years from now, and I will enjoy it.
yeah, but but the point is that now Factor is my comfort zone, and I think like I feel that it's really good when you challenge your comfort zone, if like from time to time, because otherwise you just stop moving. So I still like I want to find some kind of middle point. I want to invest into Factorio and like extend it because I think it deserves it, and it's like obvious way to go. But I also want to partially experiment, and in a way that we can afford, basically, like in a way that if it fails, it's fine. We kind of expect it to fail, but we try to make something like if you expect it to fail and make it, you can actually make something exciting, something new, because you can do some, you can do crazy stuff.
This
So
might be a little bit of a crazy proposition, but have you considered finding someone like you were 8 years ago, like making your next game not necessarily a great idea you have, but someone else? Do you think that's something?
wait a second, I didn't understand the question.
Imagine yourself 8 years ago. You had this great idea for a game, but you didn't have enough funding at that point. So
Yeah.
do you think it's possible that now that you presumably have the resources, you will find someone who is just like that and make that game?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, obviously. Investing, basically you are talking about investments, right? Like investing into games.
It is just a wild thought, but yeah, let's say you invest in
Yeah,
someone
I think
else's idea and
obviously,
drive.
actually I was even like approached by some investors that I want to talk with them next year, that like Czech, I think they are Czech, like group of investors that are investing in project, and they basically, no, I think they were non-gaming investors, and they wanted to invest into games, and they had no idea what's going on, so they wanted like me to join them and to maybe invest a little bit as well, and have someone from the field that knows what's going on. And I think that's like the point is that if you want to invest in, like, there are several aspects of this question. One is trying to be the good guy who like gives back to the, let's say, gaming community what he got. Like I at some point I feel that money is responsibility more than anything else. This is something I want to clear up. Like obviously, like first of all, I want to support my family. I want to like be safe personally to from having some financial problems. But any extra money, like what do you do with the money? The money is basically just responsibility, because you need, if you do something stupid with the money, you would feel bad about it. You feel that you need to, the money should do some good, something meaningful at least in the world. So if you invest it in some shitty project and it makes no sense, and then the money is just spent, and then it's just it's set, right? So so it means that it should be spent meaningfully. On the other hand, it's also like not only responsibility, but it's like it's some kind of a gift of the, let's say, of the world, of some, I don't know how to say it. And in some part you should give it back, and like finding someone who is in the same situation and just helping him, it's all something that makes sense, even not only from like investors point of view, obviously.
But
On the other hand,
it might very well can make sense from that point as
but
well.
on the other hand, it's really complicated, because when I'm thinking about these things a lot, and like sometimes you can even make things worse for people by giving them money. Very often it can
No
actually
question
happen.
about that, yeah.
And for example, with game projects, it's like the more money you have, or not the game projects only, like generally, like at least software projects, the more money you have, the longer it takes to do it. And sometimes the best what can happen to the for example, with us, like we had very limited time, very limited resources, so we had to really focus on the very core, like no bullshit, no nice graphics, no nice this, like just the core gameplay, the core thing that's fun, and the rest will come maybe later, maybe not. But if the fun part doesn't work, then whatever, we can't do anything extra. And that's really good. Like if you have, this is why it's, there's so big problems. If you have big studio with big money and they can just do whatever, and then they do big, I don't know, they put a big production to something, and they maybe forgot to focus on the core because they don't have to. So
There
this
are
is really,
many famous crash and burn stories
yeah,
in the gaming
this
industry.
is really like complicated subject. So and generally, like we obviously at that point we started to avoid investors because I just wanted to own it. I didn't want to have someone who have to like answer to when doing the game. I'm really happy that it worked this way, but obviously it's not always possible. So I would consider actually like investing, but it's really hard. It's basically time consuming because you have some basically how I imagine it what it happens that you have group of people, they have some very simple prototype, you have to meet them and you have to evaluate if their idea is good, if they are actually technically able to do it. You need to like it's really hard like from many aspects to evaluate if it like has chance of success, if it's a meaningful investment. And obviously it's hard for me and it's 10 times harder for someone who is just some business owner and he doesn't know about games and game development. So and with us we had this problem that in the beginning when we actually needed a lot of money, no one wanted to give us money obviously because also like we were no ones. And when we actually started to be successful in a way that we could pay our rent and it started to be obvious that it works in a way, suddenly we got a lot of investment offerings, basically, like a lot, like I don't know, like tens, I would say at least. Now, lots of different kind of emails about that, and because but at that point we didn't need it anymore. So why would we, uh, sell our shares for that? So that's a typical problem. And if you need it, no one wants to give the money to you, and if you don't need it anymore, everyone wants to have part of your success. So then you need to find some investors that actually understand the topic and can invest soon enough. And that's probably quite hard. I have no idea where would I search for it but obviously
Yeah, good point.
if
If you
someone
know about them, they probably don't actually need it. Like you said that when you really needed the investment, your people just didn't know that you exist.
yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a very impressive answer. I should say. I'm constant. I really love that you were able to make into this podcast. I'm learning so much, and thank you for your wisdom. I can't say anything else. All right. Nick, I'd like to switch a little topic a little bit because we were a little too serious, but
yeah.
I love it. But um, how surprising is it to you that the audience of Factorio seems to be the more of a tinkering programmer types? Like I know a lot of software developers. Famously, the CEO of Shopify plays Factorio. I don't know if you do. If
I
you know
have no
about it.
idea. I'm not sure if I shop. What is even Shopify? Shopify.
Okay. It's a very successful company, and he talked about it, and he actually follows you on Twitter.
Oh, really? I'm really sorry for being a little bit ignorant. There are so many things happening in the world that I have no idea. I never had about Shopify, but yeah, apparently it's some big company. Revenue 1.5 billion USD. Okay, it's a big company.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not basically if you ask if I'm surprised that the programmers and engineers play our game, it's not surprise at all. Obviously, it was obvious from almost the beginning. Basically, the idea was, the idea was that games are basically being done mainly for mainstream, and this is where most money is done. Like if you have big company doing big game and you want to sell it to a lot of people, it needs to be mainstream game. That's obvious. But the bad was that there is enough of people that are not in mainstream, that they want something different, and there are not really that many games for them. And there are these kind of programmers, engineers that enjoy this kind of deeper thinking or like more creative way of playing, or I don't know how to say it. And we are like, it's from the beginning, like people, I think that's general problem of my life, because I live in a, when I say it honestly, I live in a bubble of smart people, basically. Like when I was in school for smart kids, and when I was in university, I was like in the MatFiz, which is like mathematical university, mathematical / programming / physics, and I had all my my friends are like that, and my wife is like teacher of math, etc. So and now I'm making game, and my bubble continues to be like that because our players are also smart people. That's the point. Like people on our forums, they are generally I actually, like when I compare the comments on our forums and compare it with comments on some random YouTube video, then it's completely different story. The point is that I feel that
Don't worry. Don't worry. You now met me, and I'm very stupid, so I got you
what?
covered.
No. So the point is that I feel that it's obvious that our game is played by smart people because the game is kind of made for smart. It's the game is not. I'm not trying to say the game is very complicated. Actually, like if you really think about it, it's kind of simple in the principle, but it kind of works on some level. It works for these kind of people, and it's from the beginning. So on the forums, I was because I came from the I know all the internet kind of, not, I wouldn't say dark corners, but I know all the trollings and memes and everything from the very early days when it wasn't on Facebook, when Facebook didn't even exist. And I was prepared from the beginning that people would be trolling us and everything, and I was kind of prepared. I prepared myself to not be affected by it because it always happens and you should never be affected by it. And in the end, it didn't really happen almost at all, and I was almost surprised. I expect the hates and the trolling and everything, and it's not there. It's not happening. It's like on all the platforms we communicate, people are very, like, if people don't like the game, even if they don't like it, usually they say it in a way that I actually have nothing. I have to say that they use arguments why they don't like it, and they make sense because they are obviously, the game is not for everyone. And if someone like doesn't like some aspect of the game, usually they use arguments to explain it, and very often it happens that they make us to change something, or just, I have to say, like it's no there's no like drama usually. Like it's very rare that people really use arguments and use like
The old forums were very different. Like you could argue in good faith and actually reach a conclusion. It's not like Facebook today when it's just shit slinging. I
yeah.
remember the earlier days of the internet when a civilized discussion was basically possible.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's, and even like sometimes I was kind of almost like almost like a little bit looking for the drama. Let's see how it is. And but often it's like someone says something and someone else is like, oh, did you mean this offensive? And the other guy is, no, you misunderstood me. I just wanted to, say this argument or something. Like people really try to be nice generally.
What do you think
And
of the argument that in
no,
fact?
like
Yep.
generally, like then it gets sometimes it gets personal, but very often, like the cases when it gets personal, like it's not. And now I'm getting a little bit from subject to subject, but even like in our team, especially like I started with Thomas, and with Thomas we had this great luck that we were like super compatible. We were like not only that we were like similar, especially like we are very different people, like but we were very compatible in a way that we filled different kind of gaps in our skill set, I would say.
You know
And
what reminds that me of? Probably familiar with the show Mythbusters. Uh,
what? Show me the best stars. What?
Mythbusters.
Oh yeah.
And it was very surprising to me that the two hosts actually don't like each other. They can they work very well together, but they said that they avoid each other at all, if at all possible. So
That's interesting.
yeah, and it's interesting that you don't have to like the person to have a
Yeah,
good working
but
relationship.
we didn't, we I think we didn't have we liked each other. It's fine. We still like each other. And we were living together in an apartment, working 16 or 14 hours a day, every day for 2 years at least. And we didn't have any problems. So apparently it
Yeah,
means
that
something.
is different a bit.
It means something. But what I'm trying to say is that we always, when we had like different way of view or something, we basically were always able to find, like, to discuss it until it's resolved. Basically, almost always there's when it's programming, and when it was related to programming, it's almost always you can objectively say this is better or this is better, and we were both able to, like, this, I think one of the main important things actually when you do any business is to be able to see your mistakes and don't be afraid to, like, say that you made mistakes, obviously. So we were always like, sometimes he made mistakes and I showed it to him and he was okay with it. Sometimes and this so we were always like discussing about it until we found the resolution. And the only problem, like, I'm trying to get to the point, the only like problem when discussion, and then this kind of same principle then was with more and more people when then the company grew. But the only problem when the discussion started to be were really heated and were really like hard to manage was when it was something that's not objective. It's so not only that started to be like, for example, you usually it's, for example, UI, like, do I like the control to be the drop down or this kind of control, or 3 buttons or whatever. Then when it's kind of similar in how it's useful it is, but it's more related to how our brain works. Basically, people have differently wide brain, and it feels natural for you to use the UI one way, and for some other it feels natural other way, and you can't really explain it, you can't objectify it. It's just, it feels obvious to you. And this is where it starts to be hard. Like, how can he not understand that this UI element is so annoying to use, and how can he defend it? And this is where and it's all like the same with graphics, with style of graphics or things like that, things that you can't objectify. They're also like close to your emotions, because when you can't like think, I don't know, I can't really explain it. So these kind of things, and this is the same with the community. Like when we made some change and they didn't like it, and we could explain to them that there are like clear reasons why it's was changed, they kind of accept it. But when we changed something because we felt that it's better, but we couldn't explain it, and some people felt different way, this is the only time when people really couldn't hold it sometimes. It's really, this is really interesting, and I feel that this is part of the communication or something that needs some attention, and I would like to get better in this. If I don't know if you understand how I mean it, but
Absolutely. This is at some level it's a matter of taste, and you just can't explain it, but you feel it is right. Especially with our art style. Like, I personally don't really like the 8-bit pixel art, and some people go crazy for it, and I will never be able to explain why I don't like it.
Yeah.
So absolutely I can relate to it. And regarding trolling, please settle an argument for me. In Factorio, are the real enemy the trees?
obvious. Well, the trees are one of the main enemies. Obviously, this is why you should play on a desert, which is like which is harder because there are more attacks, but also easier because there are no fucking trees in your way. Obviously,
But
so
but
yeah.
you need the trees to make some very very
Yeah, but you need
important
just a
stuff.
few, basically, just in the beginning, and then you get the better pose, and then you are done with it. But someone made a video on YouTube. It's like someone who really hates trees. I don't know if, and he makes like videos and he compares games, like in a way like how annoying it is to mine trees there, and how many ways you can remove trees or something. And I remember that he liked Factorio a lot because there are like
I
several
love
ways.
that you can just carpet bomb the trees.
Yeah, there are several ways you can put them on fire, you can mine them, you can use robots, you can use bombs. I don't even remember all the ways, but you can use tank and just run them over, and yeah, they are just good. And this is what I think is kind of beauty of the game, because it shows like we
You can
don't really
you
like
can
hate
do so
nature,
much
right?
stuff.
Like you usually you don't hate nature, but when you are in the mindset of I just need to expand, that this is in my fucking way. I don't care what it is. If it is a tree and there's a small gorilla baby, I don't care. I just want my factory to get bigger. Then this is really really nice because then like you finish your game and then week later you think about it, think like, oh, maybe now I understand a little bit more these bastards that are destroying the rainforest. They are in a mindset that's just of expanding their whatever they are building there or whatever they need, and they just don't understand like what they are doing until it's too late, for example, maybe, or something like that. Like it's it's like I would say it's almost like a possibility to experience being evil in a way without realizing
That's what
without
video
realizing
games
it,
are for.
which is
It's
great.
better be
I love
evil in a
this.
video
And
game.
actually, I would specifically like to explore this part of the factor even more in somewhere, like being even more evil. Like you don't know how much evil you will become in the future in factor. It will be much worse. It'll be. I have some crazy ideas. Let's say.
Like tear jerking commercials with widowed biters, right? Like
What teach? What is it?
this tearing like very sad commercials which shows the widowed biters who missing their husbands that you just killed.
Yeah.
Poor bugs. And by the way, I wanted to ask which language or which architecture Factorio is written in.
Oh, I know just one language, so I made it into one language I know, and it's C++. I mean, I don't even know C++. I still feel that after 25 years, there are still parts of it that I have no idea how they work.
It
But
is quite well optimized, I would say.
but yeah, but basically it was actually it's kind of funny that the first version of Factorio was in Java because I don't know, I felt like let's try something different, and I was doing it in a week, and after a week doing in Java, and I kind of explored what are your performance optimization possibilities. I realized that they are so low, like you can do so little compared to C++, compared to what I would use to, that after a week I rewrote the work and I moved to C++. So since that day, I everything in fact is in C++. And basically we don't. In the beginning, I was thinking of using some like 2D engine or something like that, but I was afraid that at some point I would find out that there is some problem with performance, because I knew from the beginning that I would need a lot of performance. That was obvious. Like this, one of the problems with, for example, Minecraft modding was, but when I was trying to build the factories in the Minecraft, there was problem with this chunk activation, etc. And when you somehow use some mods to force chunk activation in Minecraft, the game started to be slower and slower because the game just wasn't built for this. So it was obvious from the start that I will have to, typically in the games you don't have this problem because usually you simulate things around the player and that's it. And when you go somewhere else, you just download it. But it was obvious that with Factory you will have to simulate the whole factory all the time. So it's kind of crazy, and the factory needs to be big, because when the factory is big, this is when the fun part is, when the complexity that arises from the factory being big. So it was obvious from the start that performance will be a limiting factor. So from the start, I was afraid to use some kind of engine, because suddenly I would find out in the like after 2 years, I would find out, okay, I need to optimize this, but I can because it's in the engine, and I just need to use the engine, and it would be super difficult to get rid of it. So for that reason, I just uh, didn't use an engine and did everything. Basically, we programmed almost everything. We just used some library for GUI. We used Allegro, which is super 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 old school graphic engine that's used since the DOS days, and we got rid of Allegro already. Like we use as directly SDL now, but still, it's like basically we don't use the engine we use. It's like draw me a sprite, play me a music or something, and that's it. The rest we have to do
It
manually.
does the job quite well. And by the way, watched a few. First of all, there are entire YouTube channels with considerable following dedicated to Factorio. This must feel awesome in itself. And second, the levels that people take this, like this obsessively like complicated and awesomely, like basically engineered factories. How does that make you feel? Like, do you think that, oh my god, these people know better, know the game better than me?
First of all, obviously they know the better game than me. That's obvious because I I need to work on the game and they can just play the game. And the second, first of all I want to say that I don't want to get it over my head because any game, anything that's on the internet has some almost that's at least like remotely interesting or famous has some people that are obsessed with it. So it's not like sign of like if you sign off something that's just with Factorio, it's with everything. But
Yeah, but
obviously the
with
people, for example, we have like uh, one of our people in our company. It's WhatsApp actually. He's like he plays much more than I play, and when we play together, I feel super small with him because I want to like I do one thing, and in the meantime he does three things, and still he watches me and tells me what I just did wrong. I don't understand how it's possible, but I'm well aware that I'm not that good in the game, but I think that's kind of fine. I mean, I kind of enjoy maybe a little bit different things that like completely core players, not like the players that really like take it seriously enjoy. For example, I don't know, people are super obsessed about ratios. Like I built exactly this amount of assemblers and this amount of assemblers, and so it builds exactly precisely what it needs. And actually I enjoy building the game in a very more natural way. Like I don't know, let's build 5 assemblers of I don't know, of this product, and if it's not enough I will just add more later, whatever. And it feels like more natural, that it's more fun that I just add when it's needed and I have to look for the bottlenecks, etc. And maybe in the very late game I kind of make a little bit precise setup for some bigger factories, but other than that I just enjoy more the uh, playing as I go, I would say. And also I think it's maybe a little bit better if I'm like not like really pro in the game, because still the game should be when I am, for example, I don't know, I would say, for example, we made in the game we might improve something that's useful for the normal player, but maybe the veteran would say, oh, I don't really need it because I have this blueprint for it that solves it with circuit network, and it's solvable. But maybe I would say, yeah, but the normal player doesn't know how to solve it, and it's too complicated for him, and it's too annoying to solve it this
I don't
way.
know
Like
how
for example, we didn't
much.
have splitters in the game, and one friend told me like splitters are useless. I'm using this circuit setup to split things perfectly, and I can like configure it in any way I want, etc. I was like, yes, but it's super annoying to build, and splitter is a simple thing. You just split two things. You shouldn't have it shouldn't be complicated to make something simple. So this is how I feel about it. I don't know if it is good enough answer.
Oh, it absolutely is. Have you encountered something when like watching someone play? I don't know how much you do that. You have a finite amount of time,
Well,
but
yeah, in the
like,
beginning, I did obviously all the time. In the beginning, I was just googling like every day. I googled like Factorio last 24 hours and just I watched every discussion, everything. But obviously, it was less and less possible. And now I just mainly I watch videos only when we, for example, make a new version. So I watch like I'm excited to see the video where they talk about doing new features and how they like it. This is I think it's really nice, and also what they say like about it. But obviously, like I don't watch typical like playthroughs of. And when there's like some big playthrough of some bigger YouTuber, like the last one was I think Sips or how was it called? Then sometimes I watch it, but it's like obviously it's like a small fraction of what's there.
and yeah, the question is, have you been like surprised by some of the solutions? Like, oh my god, I would have never thought of this.
Well, yeah, obviously mainly in the beginning because now not that many new principles. But in the beginning, I remember I was most surprised when they discovered that you can move. They can move car by bells, and they make like bus with cars moving on bells around and being like they have like super big throughput, etc.
You
And these
you,
are
you
things that
put stuff into the car's trunk and move that around by a belt.
yeah,
Oh my
you didn't
god.
know.
No, I haven't encountered this. That's awesome.
And obviously, there are some more crazy ideas, like for example, you make a super long train and just move it tile by tile and stop for a little bit and use it like kind of a big belt in the middle of the factory as like a bus and things like that. Like sometimes I'm kind of surprised by it, but these days it's mainly about. Uh, I'm surprised that, for example, when people can make it nice, tidy, and organized, it's also like something like there are two extremes that are interesting. Like one is like super huge spaghetti, which is basically just fun because when it's like the main bus strategy, that's like kind of good compromise between how easy it is to do and how can I extend. But it's kind of the same all the time. But when people make like really big spaghetti, this is where it is the fun. Like when you need to squeeze your belt, like one more belt through the middle of the factory, and there's more and more of them, and this is where the game really like is kind of fun. Or and the second extreme that I like is like when people really can have really nicely organized factories.
Everything
Which
has to be tileable. Like
yeah, everything table, but and everything kind of nicely. I don't know how to say it, like nicely done. It's also nice, but it's actually what surprised me the most. It's not like this is kind of normal, but what surprised me was like when people are how to say they feel inferior about their factory. Like for example, when we solve bug reports, so very often we have a bug report. They explain the problem. I said, okay, give me the save so I can look at it and see why it can't be loaded or anything. And they give me the save, and it happens like most of the time. It happens that yeah, here's the save, but please don't worry about the factory. It's just this is just temporary part of the factory. It's a little bit messy, but like they are apologizing for the save isn't like some perfect game. Like they think that
please forgive me for being a filthy casual.
yeah, this is really I found it. People just can't stop themselves from saying these kind of things, and I find it really amusing a little bit because I enjoy obviously new people. I actually, for example, my 4.5-year son, he started playing Factorio, and he made some super nicely inefficient crazy factories. Maybe wait a second, I will put this is a postcard, so but I will give you a picture of one of them because it's it's so inefficiently that it's so like nice. It's cute, and this is why I like when someone new plays it, and when I see them discovering like how the game like this, because this is a process basically, and it almost never ends. Like you start playing the game, you just improvise, and then you learn little by how to build stuff, etc.
And you
And
never
it's
have enough iron plates.
and you are somewhere in the process, and I think it's actually maybe even more interesting for me to see the like someone in the beginning of the process than to see some pro, just oh yeah, I need to
I mean that must be a true joy. Like your child playing with your creation.
oh wait a second, did I your files are too powerful, what?
Uh,
Oh, I
y-
can't upload the file.
oh
Okay,
well.
never mind. I wanted to put into the Discord, but I will maybe send it later because
I
so
will. There will be a post. So
the
if you
the way
send it
how
to me,
inefficient the factory was of my child was and the fact it was actually the fact that helped me to get back to factory because I had some phase where I was overworked and I didn't work for almost like 9 months. I didn't work on factory almost at all because I just was burnt out or it's kind of hard. And my son started playing it and he was so joyful about the game. Yeah, okay. I will send it to you later. And that the joy kind of got me back to it. It's like, oh, actually, when I can see how he enjoys it, I want to, and he found some bug, some kind of mm, in the game, and then I solved it based on the bug, and I felt good. So this was really like nice feeling too when
I
he
can
could play it.
imagine.
And also my feeling is like if 4.5 year old guy can play it and enjoy it and kind of understand what is it about, then maybe the game is not that like only for smart people. That's the point. It's not really about, it's not really hard game. It's just about you need to be certain kind of person to enjoy it, to have fun. I think that's also my takeaway.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
this is about I was talking about people are apologizing about not this is really like really fun, and it's still happening to. I think it's not happening that much because I told it several times somewhere that it's really weird that people apologize now. Maybe they are not apologizing that much, but it's still happening sometimes.
let me circle back a little.
Mhm.
One of the viewers, Digity, had a question about any thoughts on propping up the current Brood War community.
Mhm.
I don't
Propping.
propping up. Think he means, I don't know if he's still in the chat, but I think he means that Brood War is kind of a neglected community from Blizzard's part. There is no two ways about that, and I don't know what's your thoughts on that. I think that's the nature of the
But I mean,
question.
but neglected by whom? Like when you say neglected, it means like someone should take care and he's not taking care. I don't really get.
Yeah. Blizzard itself.
Oh, I mean by Blizzard, like that Blizzard doesn't like what,
They
because I
basically
in my
don't. They basically don't invest in Brood War anymore.
oh
They just don't
yeah, but
support tournaments and
what
such.
should they really? I don't know what should they do. Like the only thing that I really kind of they made the remaster, which I think was a big thing, and then the only thing I personally miss is not personally, but that objectively is missing is the possibility to play 2 versus 2 on ladder. I think that's one of the things that makes sense and just isn't there. But I don't know what they should like do. Like they should do tournaments, or they should improve the game, or I don't know what would you have in mind for the Factorio for the Brood War?
I'm just forwarding the question here.
Yeah,
This is a
that's
very vague question, I feel,
yes.
and I don't see him in the chat anymore. But well, feel free to elaborate on that.
I feel it's like a chess or something, Brood War. It's like the chess creators also don't support chess. It doesn't need support. It's just there. And
Well, and a little bit of question. Have you do you plan to do something with Brood War AI in this lifetime?
in this lifetime, yeah, I would love to.
I
I
mean,
would love to, but I can't promise anything because there are so many things in our lifetime to do
yeah,
that
because yeah, you
I think
created this,
I can.
and
I feel that it's probably improbable that I would try to make the mechanical bot or something, but I'm. It's probably obvious that I'm kind of excited about AI generally. For example, I don't know if you know about the GPT-3 that's kind of happened, and it's interesting. I got access to their playground, and I played with it a little bit, and it's not as good as they tried to look to be, but still, it's like way bigger step than anything else we had so far. So generally, like it's something. If I'm thinking what to do with my life in the future, apart just making games and playing games and having family, then it's AI. I think I don't like honestly I know nothing about AI at this point. Like I have no idea what's like I just know the very basics. But I think it's everything. I would love to learn about it and somehow get into it. And I'm not really sure what would I do. And if I get into it, then like using Brood War as the way to test what can I do.
it's a very good training ground. Like
That's
it is
that's
that.
like I can imagine that this could be interesting,
I hope you
especially
do.
especially because it's like because I kind of know the game. It's like if I what else should I test in? Also I love Go. It's my like second favorite. Like, I would say maybe Go is my first favorite, and then StarCraft my second favorite. But Go is kind of, they already made AI for Go that's good enough, so it's not, wouldn't be that exciting for me.
So, if you ever get into Brood Warrior in any capacity, then well, just reach out and the community will love you for all you did. But yeah, just creating Brood Warrior API is just. I mean, it's such a big
And-
step in itself.
And it's just, this is a great example. Like, it was not done, like it was done because I needed it to do something else, and I think this is the best motivation to do anything. Like, if you make a game just because you want to play this game but it doesn't exist, it's a great motivation. If someone making some business, like typically when you look at the successful businesses, that the people very often didn't even plan to make like a big business. They just felt like, oh, this thing, no one did this and I needed that, so what could I do? I just started doing that, and suddenly there was a business out of it. And the same is with the APIs. Like, no one did it, and so I think this is the mindset that we should generally try to have. This is why I kind of like, for example, Elon Musk, etc., because he has the same kind of mindset. Like, why is no one going to Mars yet? What the fuck? So I need to do it then.
Yeah, I absolutely love his approach, and
That's-
like he had his thinking from first principles. Like if he builds a company, he thinks through the entire supply chain, and well, he's building a battery factory, and I wouldn't rule out he like opening a lithium mine next, because that's the next logical step. Like, you need something done. You
No, that's
better not rely
we
on
are,
other
we are
people.
getting a little bit off topic, but I think
A bit, but I mean, what is on topic even?
I think that lithium might not be needed in some next gen batteries. It looks like it's not impossible that lithium wouldn't be needed at all, which would be the best.
Was just an example of the first principle thinking,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yes.
I know. But I just think like this is too, like, I don't know if it's good to own all the chains. I don't know. I'm not a businessman. I don't know. Yeah, that's the point. I'm not a businessman. I'm a gamer and programmer, and by chance I kind of got into business, but it wasn't even the kind of a primary motivation. So it's a side product basically, which is the fun part. Anyway, so let's get closer to the questions that you want to ask. I mean, do you still have some question, or we can just
No, actually,
improvise?
that was the last question that
Mhm.
that I had in the chat.
Mhm.
I no, I don't have any more prepared ones.
Mhm.
And we've been going for almost 3 hours, so
Yeah.
it's probably the longest cast ever.
Oh.
So I would say that
I warned you that I am long-winded.
I very
you
much
warned me.
enjoyed it. I really it is one of the best, and I maybe we can continue this. I was just yeah, drinking your words. It's really awesome. So I think
Oh.
we should prepare to close up, and I would like to give you and the audience the opportunity to ask a few closing questions. And yeah, as all I can say is I'm honored to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was a nice evening.
Then we didn't really let Mr. Heinerman speak, but I mean
I don't know. Is he still here? Is he sleeping?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
but
So maybe you can tell your perspective or something, or I don't know.
Perspective on what?
On Brewer API, because I was there in the beginning, but then I basically left, and you were still there until maybe this day, kind of. So
Yeah. It was really fun. I just enjoy reverse engineering stuff.
basically there is one big thing left for to do in Broodwar API, which is making the support for remastered, and then it is basically concluded. I think.
also remastered isn't done yet.
No, it's not. It's in progress, but
And
since
Adam, and how different it is.
Um, we can't hook into it like we did with Brewdor. But we got some kind of, well, not official support yet, but they they have like a branch, like a private branch, um, with uh, like a protobuf kind of API.
Like Blizzard? Like you communicated with Blizzard?
Yeah.
Oh, like you contacted them or?
Uh, I think they kind of started it on their own.
Really?
Um,
Like they contacted you?
oh no, I did contact them actually, but they also did a little bit of stuff on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think what's left is in the Brewdor API, we need to finish the next version and release that before we can integrate, if integration is still on the table, because it's been
And what?
a while.
So why can't it? I have just two questions. Why can't it be Hook? And the second question is, with their private branch, how would it work? Like, would they give you different executable for that's possible to Hook or something?
Yeah, they sent an executable.
And they already gave it to you?
I think so.
Mhm.
I don't remember where I put it though.
Okay, that's kind of don't lose it. Yeah, that's kind of interesting that they would go forward. Okay,
So
and mhm.
So yeah, the basic gist of it is, since it's a volunteer project and it's a non-trivial amount of work, it is progressing slowly.
Yeah, but I mean the point is that if we have them on the line, then I mean we wouldn't have to reverse engineer it at all if they provided if they would probably not provide a source code, I guess. But I mean, if they provided the source code, obviously there would be completely different story. Then we could just we wouldn't have to we just have to we could make the API somehow official. But
So
but at least. Mm-hmm.
yeah, reverse engineering remastered isn't necessarily a good idea. They have like anti-hack protection and stuff in it now, so I don't know, like if the monitoring changes, it could like catch people and ban them. So I don't want to really risk that. And there are a bunch of options. Like there's the 1.16.1 binary is still being vended by third parties, and OpenBW is a thing that people can use. So there are options,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to put in a ton of effort into, reverse engineering the new binary, which now
Yeah, I understand.
changes, and it has like obfuscation and all this other crazy stuff.
Yeah, if they really invest anything into obfuscation, that means that you will probably have to do a lot of work every release or even more. I can imagine it could be exponentially harder. And how is it with open brood war? Is it actually a thing? Is it working?
Yeah, you can like you can take a 1.16.1 replay and replay it in OpenBW, and it will
Wow.
play correctly because um, it was built from reverse engineered code.
Oh, that's very cool. So and so you can even so why don't we use that for API now? Because then it means
We can. There's already API hooks in that too.
mhm. I didn't even know that this exists. This is crazy. Okay.
Alright, guys, I'm gonna forcibly
Mm-hmm.
say that we should end this cast because
Mm-hmm.
I I'm myself getting really tired.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
That
yeah.
is just not good for the viewers. But I would absolutely love if we could continue this just with the two of you next time. I hope we can manage that maybe.
Maybe some other day. Okay. So thank you for inviting and have a nice day.
Thank you for joining, and please stay on the line. I'm ending the stream
Yes.
now. Thank you very much for listening. If you did so on YouTube, please throw us a like and maybe a subscribe. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/mcdt. Shout out to my patrons so far, plus Nielsen and James Schubeck. Thanks again and goodbye.